What's going on, everybody? It's Zach Huffman with The High Ground. Today we're going to be diving into one of the most critical skills in business professionals, sales. Specifically, we're going to be talking about building authentic relationships in a digital-first world. I'm thrilled to be joined by Kristen Atwell, a sales and marketing expert with over 17 years of experience. Kristen has navigated the shift from traditional face-to-face sales to a world dominated by emails, video calls, and automation. Her insights are invaluable for anyone looking to master the balance between tech and trust. Kristen, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I know that we've worked together for 6 years, 7 years maybe at this point. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And you've worked for Summit for how long?
17 and a half years.
Well, obviously, I got it a little bit wrong in terms of like your years of experience. You obviously have years prior to that experience.
Prior and in the middle, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Tell us,
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about that. I think the best way that we like to kick these off is tell us a little bit about yourself leading up to your career. Like, why and how did you land here at Summit and land in the career path that you did? And you can take us back as far as you want to, or
Okay.
as recent as you want to.
Yeah, so I originally was hired as a graphic designer straight out of college. Came in, interviewed, and was here for a little over a year. And then the creative director at the time was getting ready to take a different position. And Tammy, Todd, who are the owners of the business, were going to hire a creative director in over the top of me because they were a little concerned that I was so young. To that, I used my sales charm and convinced them to take a gamble. And then immediately they made me the creative director. And I was with them for 10 years in the role of creative director, producing 18 different print telephone directories in the course of a 12-month period. And then from there, print yellow pages started to dwindle a little bit. And I wasn't necessarily looking because Summit has been an amazing family and has full of amazing people. But I was approached by Samsung Medical Imaging to go and be their director of sales support and marketing.
Yeah.
So with that, that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I was over the nation and was able to build quite a few skills in the sales arena. And after about 2 years there, Todd, the owner of Summit, came back to me and said, hey, we really want you to come back and head up our sales team here at Summit. So since then, I've been back, and now I'm the director of sales for Summit Media Solutions.
Yeah, so kind of like a little bit of a transition. Sales is that one skill that, regardless of whether you're a sales professional, you got to have it. And so you kind of convinced Tammy and Todd to take that gamble on you from creative director. That's kind of a little bit of a shift. Any insights to like that shift? Was it just natural from Samsung days and like the experience you gained there on that transition from the creative side of the business, being the creative director, to a sales director?
Yeah, so when I was over at Samsung, there was a lot to do with sales and marketing. It was supposed to be mostly a marketing role, which is why I had originally taken it, and was under the impression in the beginning that it was 80% marketing, 20% sales. When I got there, it was the flip of that. Love that, right? But really honed those sales skills, worked with a team of sales individuals, worked with creating all of the KPIs for them, and worked with a business coach at the time to really dial in what it was that we were doing on the sales side there, which then translated to what I do over here at Summit. And having the creative aspect and the background and the knowledge of all of the pieces that it takes for all of the services that we sell now has been really beneficial.
It's so funny how, you talk to a lot of different people that work for different businesses, and they say a very similar story is like, they told me I was going to be doing this most of the time, and it was actually opposite. And so it's like, why can't businesses just be honest about what you're going to be doing? If it was 80% sales, just say 80% sales, right? It's so weird that everybody has that story.
Yeah, it definitely was baptism by fire. So getting into that role. Now, obviously, being the creative director, I had some sales experience, but it was completely flipped of where my skill set was. But had some great mentors over there that really helped hone those skills and really that experience being in a multi-million dollar industry where equipment, one piece of equipment's over $1 million.
Yeah, not cheap equipment.
No, and so it was an interesting sales arena to be in for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And so, that experience, you've been in sales for almost 2 decades, maybe a little bit over decades. How would you describe your core philosophy when it comes to building relationships with clients? Like, over the year, you've been able to hone your messaging, your perspective, your opinions on the best way to approach sales and building those relationships with clients. Can you talk to us a little bit about your core philosophy?
Yeah, it's all about setting proper expectations up front and goals and making sure that everything is communicated clearly from the very beginning. And then from that point, it's communication and execution. So you're making sure that you're communicating the process all along the way, no matter what the sale is, but you're really connecting and being relational with that client. And then making sure that you deliver what it is that you promised and what you've sold.
Of course. Yeah. And so, communicating and expectations are kind of that forefront. And for me, being on the operations side, is whatever you say is the play we've got to run on our operations side. So that's definitely key. Do you have any tips for setting those expectations? Is there any, how do you communicate clearly around expectations and make sure that you're not over promising and under delivering? Do you have any insights that could help other sales professionals in harnessing that setting proper expectation skill?
Yeah, so know what it is that you're selling up front. So whether it's Samsung medical imaging equipment or marketing and advertising, know exactly the ins, the outs, what it is that you can accomplish, and making sure that you're not setting improper expectations and that there's clear, defined roles of, hey, what is success going to look like when we hit this goal or when we hit this? What is it that we're working towards as a team? I really do see sales as more of a partnership than, hey, I'm selling you something. I was really never supposed to go into sales, which is a whole nother piece of my journey. Sales was never something that I woke up and said, hey, I want to do this. It just kind of happened. And I will still have clients of mine come to me and say, hey, you're not salesy, because I don't view it that way. I look for areas for my clients to win, and when they win, I win. So it's all part of, hey, what does a win look like for them? Setting that expectation up front, being clear that we're on the same path, we're on the same journey, and we have that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a big difference. Having been on multiple different sales calls with you and seeing how you operate, it is not sales in the traditional sense. It definitely is that consultative approach where the decision's ultimately theirs, and I think that is the skill that's probably that's the hardest to harness in a sales role, is separating yourself from your paycheck, your goals, your aspirations, and not letting those things come through on the client side. Like they just don't see that. And so usually when you're working with a salesperson and early in their career, or somebody that's just really embodies that sales nature, you can kind of see it through their teeth every single time, and clients and consumers especially are becoming more savvy about sales.
Yeah, they don't want to be sold anything. Yeah. So to that, it's more about the relationship and do we have something that's going to make their life better and easier, or help them achieve the goals that they're wanting. And so that's where I look at it and say, okay, where's the win in that? I'm very much servant minded and want to serve my clients to the best of my abilities. So again, having those expectations up front and what it is that they're hoping to accomplish to make sure that we're building strategies that fit those needs, and then we can guide them through the process.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely making sure that you have the client's best interest in mind, and if it doesn't fit for them, I know that you find what fits for them. So, in your experience, um, what are those timeless principles of sales that still work, no matter how much the tools and the tech's been evolving? Because it is evolving at a rapid pace currently. Sales 10 years ago is different, 20 years is different, and we're sitting here at the beginning of 2025. So, what are those timeless principles that you've seen through your evolution that just haven't changed?
So again, it's the communication piece, right? It's no matter what, whether it's a tool for email automation or whether it's a outreach via text, whatever it is, it's that communication in a timely manner and setting a proper cadence of execution so we're on the same page, we're marching to the same music, and we're moving in the same method.
Yeah, and so communication and the way that we communicate has changed, significantly. It used to be all face to face. Then email came around, and we're like, oh, we're going to start emailing. We still email today,
Right.
obviously, but then the phone came around, then the internet came around, and now we have AI and automations and all these different tools. You know, how do you communicate well with all the different options? Because nothing beats being able to communicate face to face.
Right.
So how do you balance all the different tech and still communicate effectively?
So, use of tools like a CRM system really help you communicate effectively, but it's only as good as the data that you put into it. So, from a sales perspective, I would say one thing that you really need to hone is making sure that you master the data and taking time to input information into the systems and the tools that are going to make your life easier.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you fast forward a month, you've had 50 other conversations, your memory may not serve you exactly. And so it's using the tools, putting information and putting systems in place that are going to utilize what it is that you effectively communicated from the beginning and creating a system of follow-up for yourself.
Yeah. And you're speaking my language. This is the stuff like CRMs, systems, data. That's my pillow talk, as you will, is like those are the things that really jazz me up. And if you didn't know this, 58% of small businesses, which I find this baffling, 58% of small businesses do not have a CRM or a system to manage their current clients or even the clients that they're looking to go after. Like that's a pretty astonishing number when I learned that stat. Can you share any sales experience or a moment in your career where your philosophy in the communication and setting proper expectations and leveraging all the different tools that you have that really made a difference in closing a deal or winning over a client? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. We had a client that we prospected for over 3 years. It was a fairly large client. And there would be big spans of time between communication with them. And, they'd go 6, 7 months without communicating with us. So using a CRM system, putting the data, putting the notes, having proposals, having past history of communications to then refresh our memories with where we were, what that looked like, was incredibly helpful. Otherwise, 6 months, 7 months later from a conversation that happened, would not have been as streamlined or as fluid to be able to pick up where we left off and continue to get to that point of they're an amazing client and partner of ours now.
Yeah, I was actually a part of those conversations, and all good let relationships start out hot and heavy right from the beginning. Lots of communication, lots of things moving, a lot of research on our end, a lot of vetting and questions that the client's asking, and then one day you wake up and crickets. And then we do our follow up and say, hey, and they're like, well, give us a week, give us a month, give us this, and I think we had to pick that conversation up 3 different times, and that evolved to eventually becoming a partner, mainly because of the way that you communicated, and just they liked you, right? It's, I think, something to be said when you have a 3-year like warm up period to get this client to actually sign and become a partner of ours. Is why did they wait so long is one question, but the other question is, why did they pick the phone back up and call us, right? So something has to be said about that process.
And to that, I would say that I think it's the follow-up. So that's another key piece in sales that a lot of times is left, where, to your point, a lot of sales individuals will chase that opportunity in the beginning when it's so hot and it's exciting and it's fresh, but then all of a sudden maybe it cools off and then they let it go by the wayside. Right? So without systems, without a CRM, without ways to remind you to, hey, I need to email them, or an automation of an email, something to stay in front of that client on a regular basis, or prospect in this case, on a regular basis, to say, hey, we're still interested in partnering with you. Not sure what happened on your side, even though there's void of communication, maybe on the other side, but still dripping on them, making sure that they see our logo, that they see what it is that we're up to. I think ultimately that was where the success was, is that follow-up and continuous effort over that 3-year period. Whereas most sales individuals probably would have said, after a year, meh, I'm going to just mark it as abandoned. I'm not going to follow it up.
Yeah. There's a lot of hidden opportunities deep in that well of CRM that, life happens. People are people, and business owners are no different. You never know what happened on their end that made them abandon it. Maybe it was a family issue, maybe it was a money issue, and you never know. So, always being able to go back to that pipeline of old data. If you have a CRM and you manage it well, you can find some opportunities and just drip on people. Make sure that you're there. Hey, how you doing?
Right.
Always keeps you top of mind, and that's a missing opportunity. Now we have a full-blown sales organization for our company, but we work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses that maybe don't have a sales organization, or everybody within the organization is the sales team. So you're pulling double duty or wearing a lot of different hats. But these same methodologies in a CRM is not just for those that have a full-blown sales team. Every business needs one, because there's a lot of opportunities in being able to manage the data effectively and execute your marketing better. So we really want to talk about building the human connections in a digital world. So let's talk about something every salesperson faces today, which is building those connections in a world where so much of the communication happens digitally. It's a huge challenge, especially for newer sales professionals who maybe have never experienced sales without the tech. And so with texting, email, the CRM tools, the AI that's coming out, the automations that leverages, prospecting tools, so on and so forth, how do you ensure that every human element needed in the sales process doesn't get lost?
Yeah, so to that, I think that all of the tech tools are fantastic, especially with warming up prospects, with gauging interest levels. But at some point, it tips over to that human element, the phone call, the connection, the relationship, the Zoom meeting. All of those types of things are really needed, because it's all about trust and building trust in the relationship, and having products and services that they believe will help them move their business forward. And so being able to clearly communicate that right now, as I see it with our business, there is still that human element that is needed to create that long-standing partnership in the relationship.
Yeah, and how do you do that? Like how are you still leveraging that human touch?
Yeah. So most of my personal business starts with a phone call, right? So after there's some sort of interest spiked by all of the different marketing pieces that you and your team have put together, or just in general, it starts with a phone call. It starts with the building of the relationship. Then it moves to a Zoom conversation or an in-person conversation. We do sell nationwide, and so to that, which is fantastic. 4 years ago, before COVID, people were not as receptive to Zoom meetings. Now it's second nature to most business professionals. So that's really opened up an avenue for us to be able to sell nationwide, which has been fantastic. So either Zoom or in person, if it's here in the city where we are, in person's always preferred because it's easier to build business relationships that way, especially when you're asking them to spend thousands of dollars. The technology piece, yeah, people may sign up for a software solution or sign up for a service that's a couple $1,000s. But when you start tipping over into what's really going to move their business and move the needle forward for them, I do believe that the relationship's important. And not only from the sales consultant, but then from all of the team that's fulfilling the services as well. Because one of the things that makes us wildly successful is it's not just me and my face or our sales team. It's our entire company is working towards that common goal for the clients.
Yeah, I think that, to double click on that specifically is connecting multiple people within the organization
Yes.
to the business in the pre-sale process. How important do you think that is in getting multiple people involved? My competencies is the marketing, specifically websites and SEO. We have other members of our team that are more on the PPC or the social side. How important do you think it is to bring and personify those people that mostly are in the background?
Yeah, so it's part of every conversation that we have with prospects. So whether we actually bring you in and do a demonstration or have you be part of that, when we say we have a team that supports us and backs us, that's really critical for our success. Because there are so many marketing agencies out there that maybe don't have a deep bench like we do. So the knowledge of, hey, we've had 21 years of experience, we're not going anywhere. We have a team that supports, fulfills, does all of this. So it's not just me that you're interfacing with, but it's the entire team that is moving forward on your behalf. Has been critical for our success.
Yeah. So from our side on the operations, it's, we are always about scaling, efficiencies. We work with hundreds of different businesses across the United States and, in Canada as well. Is the digital communication is the quick and convenient. It's really simple, really easy. Boom, boom, boom. I can get on to the next thing because we're all about efficiencies. But sometimes it can feel transactional. So how do you make those interactions feel more personal and genuine when you have a client or a partner in California? You're obviously not hopping on a plane. So how do you make those digital communications more human-centric?
Yeah, so it's about communication and execution. So it's creating a cadence and an understanding that, hey, maybe once a month we're going to be getting together, we're going to have a Zoom call, we're going to be going over your results, we're going to go over this information together. If you have frustrations, you can reach out to a human at any point in time, either via email, pick up the phone, call. Having the availability and instead of just getting caught into a system or getting caught in tech or an automated phone tree or whatever it is, we're available, we're here, we're partnering with you. If you have a concern, let us know. We'll help you overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah, so just simply being available. There's so many companies out there today, small and large, that are just hard to get a hold of. You pick up the phone, you call them, you talk to a receptionist, and the person that they can't handle your problem, so they try to say, oh, I'll put you through to the voicemail, or the main decision maker's not available, or they just don't answer the phone. That you leave a voicemail and you don't get a call back. It's pretty wild out there that the amount of people that we've communicated with that just are unresponsive, and maybe that's their fault, maybe it's not their fault. Some of them are in a crawl space, putting in an HVAC unit, or on top of a roof, and can't really stop what they're doing because they're trying to run their business. But for us, it's like from the very beginning of starting the company, it was like two or three rings, and you're getting a live person that can answer your questions regardless. And if they can't, there's somebody else on deck, short hold time, talking to a live person. No automated answering system when you call 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and that does help connect and put that human centered nature in there. And I know that on the sales side, you guys are pretty available all the time. Text us,
Yep.
call us any time, and we'll answer those calls. So when you're juggling these different modes of communication, face to face seems to always win. When you have an opportunity to meet face to face, you really want to take that opportunity. But when is it better to pick up the phone and meet face to face? Is there a threshold? It's like it needs to be a face to face meeting, or this is better served as a phone call.
Yeah, so with our clients, there is a level of, hey, they're really busy as well. So being mindful of that, I think you just mentioned it. A lot of the businesses that we work with, sometimes they're actually doing the services themselves. Maybe their staff called in sick and they end up out on the job site, whatever it may be. So being mindful of them and their roles that they're playing within their companies, and knowing that they have a preferred method of communication, knowing what that is ahead of time. And then beyond that, I always say it's best if there's anything negative or slightly negative, or maybe we didn't hit the goal or hit what it was that we were really driving towards. That all needs to be face to face or a phone call. That should never be a text, an email. Too many of communications that could be negative in other organizations are left to text type of communications, and it leaves too much open for interpretation. And then before you know it, that could turn into slinging emails back and forth where, hey, picking up the phone call, walking through it, owning if there was a mistake, that it happened, and what are we doing to provide a solution to that mistake, and how are we going to move forward where we're all in the same goal again.
Yeah. And so we've kind of danced all around it. We've talked about CRMs and automations and the tools and leveraging the tools, and we're in a digital world, and I think we're only going to become more digitized as all industries grow with the talk around AI, Web3, the internet's evolving, and all that jazz. But with all the tech that we get pitched on a regular basis, so we know that our clients are getting pitched that same type of tech. It's clear digital tools have become a huge part of the sales process. But like anything, that can be a double-edged sword. And so I'd like to talk about how you've seen technology enhance and sometimes hinder the sales process. So what's your take on how technology has changed sales, especially when it comes to relationship management?
Right. So all the way back to CRMs and relationship management, that's been a huge game changer. Being able to have a single source of truth, to be able to reference it, to know exactly where you left off with that client. And again, it's only as good as the data that you as the sales professional puts into the CRM. So that's something to remember, is there's still always going to be a human element that's required from the input and the data side of things. But from there, that's been a game changer. Then email automations, huge game changer as well, is sending out mass email and waiting for people to reply, take action, and then all of a sudden now we have a list of individuals that are more qualified to go and call and contact. Has streamlined the sales process from just randomly picking up the phone and calling anybody under the sun. We have an outbound sales team that does make calls and does cold calling. So that's really warmed up that whole process that has really helped us significantly improve.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that businesses, like the first step that businesses should be taking in terms of leveraging technology? We talk to a lot of small and medium-sized businesses that just do everything manually. Manual calendar, pick up the phone. In today's world, they're somewhat antiquated and getting left behind, and they just don't know about it. And so, is the first piece of tech they need to pick up a CRM, or is there a different piece of technology that is going to make their lives easier to sell?
So when you say the first piece of tech, I would say yes, it has to be some sort of database management. So like you said, 58% of small businesses don't even have some sort of a database management. So then, therefore, they're doing transactional sales. They're meeting with their client, and then they lose that information. They have no way to remarket towards them. They have no way of building a long-term relationship with them, a loyalty program. Any of these things that we've seen wildly successful, they don't have those tools in place. So that would be the first place I would say that they need to start. Then there's tools beyond that, that are AI driven. So one of our recent tools that we've adopted is the Inbox Pro, which is a huge time saver, where it can reply on behalf of our clients and really speed up that communication process and save quite a bit of time and energy getting to, hey, is this a qualified person that's coming to my website or interacting with Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, and allowing that communication to take place. And then, hey, this is a qualified person I should be talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the CRM's huge. When we present those CRMs to different partners and different things that just don't have them, it's a game changer in the way that they are able to run, market, and execute sales, generate more sales for better revenue. It's a pretty good investment. And so, if you are a business owner, start thinking about a CRM as a piece of technology. If you are a sales professional listening into this and maybe don't have the ability to purchase a CRM, you're just a sales person inside of an organization, obviously recommend that CRM tool to your boss, the owner. Obviously tie it to return on investment. That's kind of what they like to hear is, okay, I'll buy this solution. What's the ROI on it, and how much more effective our sales going to be? But what's something that a salesperson should be doing in the absence of having a CRM? Is there any tools or recommendations for them to become more effective?
So I would say time blocking and organization is huge for the sales side of the world. We tend to be individuals that maybe aren't as detailed as others. Hate to say that, but it's true. Or we have a tendency to kind of bounce around from thing to thing. So without tools of some sort of time blocking, a planner, organization, taking control of your time and being conscientious of how you spend your time, those would be tools that I would say are needed as well for any sales individual.
Yeah, definitely a skill. I mean, the salespeople that seem to just knock it out of the park are those that are the most organized in the absence of a CRM, which a CRM is all it is staying a system to stay organized. So even if you were to organize yourself on a paper calendar or a planner, that could be your CRM. Just stay organized. Don't miss out on follow-ups, right? Somebody tells you to call them in a month, call them in a month. Don't call them in 3 months. Right. Those things seem obvious,
Call
right?
them in 4 weeks, not a month, but yes.
Yeah.
Always call them before. But anyway, we won't go there.
That's a good tip. Obviously, I'm not in the sales realm, so that's a little bonus tip for everybody listening. Call them before they say.
Exactly. Beat the timeline just a little bit.
So, we've talked a lot. I think we've been meeting for a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point, about AI. And a lot of our conversations are leveraging them lead gen wise. Some of our previous podcast episodes have all been around AI. And so I'm really curious your thoughts in artificial intelligence and how that is going to revolutionize the sales process of an organization.
Yeah, when it's leveraged correctly and systems are built correctly, I think that it's going to be a huge time savings. Lots of automation, lots of pieces where maybe it was a manual email that somebody on the sales team had to stop, drop, put together. All of those types of things. I think it's going to be a really amazing tool, all the way from the very beginning of sending out emails and generating an inbound lead source to what do you do after you've had conversations with them and maybe they cooled off a little bit and now the manual follow-up isn't necessarily as needed. Creating those systems of automation and utilizing those to streamline everything from the sales side of things.
Yeah, I mean the automations, the ability to leverage AI to save time. I think in the last episode, Todd and I covered a lot of different pieces that save time, gain efficiencies, 6 to 10%. When leveraging AI, you can get 6 to 10% additional revenue increase.
Right.
Operational efficiency, and so in the sales org, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how you can put these AI tools as in a little bit of an example. And so, for example, we have our AI inbox chat that is a website chat bot that lands on your website, completely trained with a bunch of boilerplate information that we've given it, leveraging various AI tools. That's an agentic AI, which means that it is an AI that has the process to do multiple things and leverage multiple large language models. That's about as deep as I'm going to go into that. It's much deeper, but started getting these acronyms and different things, it can
Yeah.
get a little confusing. So that's a AI web chat that we put on our website. That web chat then captures lead information, which we pipe over into a CRM system. That CRM system record is created. Then it can send off a task. You can send a task to a salesperson to let them know, hey, this is a new lead that came in. This is something that you need to follow up on. You're responsible for calling, emailing, and connecting on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So it generates 3 different tasks, automatically pipes into the sales rep's daily workflow. The rep can then contact, schedule a meeting. Well, maybe that scheduled meeting takes off another thing, another task. You can then take things like it pipes in to your CRM, maybe through your conversation. I always like this example because it's very interesting. Personalization of the sales, like how can you personalize things to make it not feel cookie cutter and more human centric of building that relationship. Is let's say that sale just blows out, right? They just are not at the right place, wrong time. They don't have the money. It's just not the right time for them to make the investment. Well, maybe I captured that Kristen's favorite color is blue. Well, we can actually take that AI and send Kristen an email that's blue. Why would I want to send a red email when I know in my CRM and I've captured this piece of weird data that I know Kristen's favorite color is blue. I'm going to send her a blue email. And so AI handles all of that for us, and that's just one very small example of how AI automations can revolutionize the sales process, because we know the salespeople typically are not the best at being organized. And so when you have the system to keep them organized and keep them on track, they can focus on what they do really do best, and that is closing the deal, selling, and having conversations.
Right.
Anything to add there in the creating of the system? Anything that you would recommend in having the system, or anything to add on as an example for the automation?
Yeah, I would just say, as a coach of many sales team members, the biggest thing is, why do I need to put this data in a CRM? Why do I need to capture this? What's in it for me, right? So your example there is a perfect reason to input all of that information, whether it's, hey, they have a dog and they love dogs and this and that, and the dog's name is this, right? All of those data points then become ways that we can personally connect and create systems of that relational connection that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the best example of this, and that I always tie back to, is Amazon. right? They just do it extremely well. When I jump onto Amazon, based on what I've bought, what I've looked at, the information, the TV shows that I've watched, those are the recommendations on my page. We pull up Kristen's Amazon page and my Amazon page, it's gonna be drastically different. Ecosystems, same website,
Yep.
and all of that. And they just have all of those data points, which make me buy. I get a delivery every day, it seems like.
Right. It's the
cool.
personalization and it's capturing that data
Yeah.
is what I would say is important. Yeah.
My wife actually she uses my our Amazon account, so it's not really personalized to me. I guess it's personalized to her.
That's funny because my husband uses mine. So must be that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, she definitely purchases everything, but on there.
Yeah, I randomly get text messages with Amazon links. Order this, please. Order this, please. Okay, click order.
Same thing I do to her. And so this has been a really kind of ebbs and flows of a conversation around sales in the digital world. And so as we wrap up the conversations for today's episode, I really just kind of want to walk through three different things here. And so, Kristen, what are your top three strategies for sales success? We've explored the tools, we've explored some challenges, but what are your top three strategies for sales success?
Yep. So it's communicating expectations up front effectively in the very beginning, then executing, watching the execution piece of it, and then communication through the entire process. So those are the three things: expectations, execution, and communication.
Yeah, the execution, expectations, and the communication are all really nice. Like, don't promise something and not deliver. Communicate all through the process, even if they go cold on you. You got to stay on top of that because it's not the client's responsibility or a consumer's responsibility to reach out to you. It's your responsibility to reach out to them, and I think that's a big difference.
We had a great presentation with a prospect earlier this week, and she flat out said, "Do not call me before the beginning of the year. I will go ahead and do a website with you all, have every expectation moving forward. I budget, I do these things, and it's not going to hit the budget until January. I don't want to be called," right? So that's expectation, communication. That was all in the discovery call, and asked her, hey, please let us know what is the best way to communicate with you. What does that look like? And creating that all the way from the prospect then through the sales process.
So that person you don't want to call early. You want to call them right on the time that they said.
Yes, she was very clear. Do not call me before. So believe it's January 2nd. So we put a task in the CRM system to immediately call her. January 1st we're closed, but January 2nd we're like, that's the day we're going to pick up that phone and call her for sure.
Awesome. And so, I kind of want to do some like vision casting, and this is a fun part of the conversation because it is completely open based on what you've seen in the past, what you're currently experiencing now, and I want to talk about the future. And so, looking ahead in sales and marketing, they're evolving pretty quick. Kristen, with your experience, where do you see relationship building heading in the next 5 to 10 years? Does it stay the same, or is it going to be drastically different than what we're experiencing now?
I would say where I see it headed is it's going to be more important than ever. So I believe that with AI, with automated communication, with all of the things that are going to come at us, I believe that human element and that partnership with key business relationships is going to be more crucial than ever before. I look at COVID, where we all experienced a time and then everybody came out of it wanting that human connection, wanting that relationship. I think that AI, in a way, is going to be that as well, because I think that we as humans want that connectivity. We want a human relationship, a human element. We don't just want to be talking to a robot or talking to an automated system. We want to know that there's somebody on the other end of that that's truly answering those questions and feeling like we're being heard. So I believe it's going to be more important than it has.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Is like, history tells you everything, and what happened through COVID is, they put the lockdowns on us, forced us all to be in our house, couldn't go here, couldn't go anywhere, no events, no holidays, right? You were kind of like shunned if you thought about even going to Thanksgiving or, God forbid, Christmas or any of the holiday events. And so, as soon as those lockdowns started to alleviate, what did everybody jump to? They jumped to networking events and community
Hmm.
events and getting out of the house. So I would definitely see that was something that we were starved for a period of time, and something that I think majority of people don't want to go back to.
Right.
And so that really emphasizes going forward, even in the absence of a lockdown or a COVID-esque situation, that if we automate too many things with AI and remove the human touch, people are going to be starved for that.
Right.
Um, and so this has been a pretty valuable conversation. These insights about building relationships in a digital world um, are a great reminder that no matter how much technology evolves, sales is still about people. So before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd leave with our listeners who are navigating the balance between tech and trust? And I would like to give, I'll change this up in this question is two takeaways. I would like a takeaway for the listeners that are running the business or a sales director at the top of the organizational chart. And then I'd also like a takeaway for those that are listening that are in the lower or middle half of that organizational chart. They are maybe a sales manager or a salesperson. What advice would you leave for them?
Yeah, so I would say that for those that are at the top, the coaching roles, you know, that nothing's going to replace that human connection, that human element, and the relational piece. We as humans want to be understood, want to be heard. And even though AI is an amazing tool, and I do see it as such, and that there is advances that are going to change the sales landscape, nothing is going to replace that need for connection and that human element. And then for the middle, so those who are out doing sales and on the pavement and really interacting on the day to day, is don't lose sight of that, right? You're going to need to have the follow up. You're going to need to have the human touch. Yes, technology is wonderful. Yes, it's going to get you to a certain point, but at that certain point, then it's going to tip over and the relationship's going to have to start carrying that partnership forward.
Yeah, I think this has been a really impactful conversation. So, I'm trying to itemize everything that I've heard. There was a tons of really good nuggets for top of the organization, middle, and bottom of the organizational chart. Um, Big things that I took away from this conversations is relationships always come first. Tech is a tool and not a replacement. Leverage it. You must leverage those tools in order to get the best possible outcome. Personalization and follow through are non negotiables. And then be adaptable. Sales evolves, but the human touch remains constant. That's the must there.
Yeah.
Anything that I missed through this conversation?
I think that you really summed that up. The one piece I would say is you're only as good as the data that you put into the systems. So without that, it's all up here, but it can't be executed on with all of the AI tools if it's not input into a system of some sort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's a great takeaway. And again, lots of really good nuggets scattered throughout this episode. I just want to say, Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your experience and strategies. Your 20 years of sales are a testament to the power of relationships and the success you've had in leveraging those relationships. I know our listeners are going to be walking away with a ton to think about. Likely going to be hitting the rewind button in a few of these places. But this has been a really good episode for the high ground, which it's all about helping small and medium-sized businesses get the advantage and reach the high ground.
Thank you. I appreciated being part of this, and I'm excited to see what else is coming after this.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.